Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. We're going to be starting now. Thank you for your patience, and let's do it. So, hi, everyone. Thank you so much for attending this BAU webinar. I'm very pleased to be here. So for those that don't know me, I'm Yoli Inácio, teacher and also co-coordinator alongside Jorge Alvarez of the Graphic Communication Design's Master program. Jordi, if you're there, hello. So the master degree helps to understand, conceptualize, and project digital graphic communication from a functional perspective, always using creativity, of course, and individual expression with strategic and professional support. So it's a 9-month program, 4 classes per week, all in English, and a very international group. So students and teaching staff from all over the world. And to be able to get in, you have to apply for a pre-inscription so we can evaluate if you're the right fit. And if you need more information, you can check our webpage or contact us. So one of our teachers from this program is our guest today, is Jorge Grimberg. He's a writer, journalist, author, teacher, and also his work is focused on fashion and trend forecasting. He was in the commercial and marketing direction of WGSN for almost 10 years and has already been published by Vogue America, Business of Fashion, CNN Style, and Coolhunting. So today we're going to be talking about Coolhunting for self-development, which I think is a great topic nowadays. If you have any questions for him, feel free to comment, put on a chat section or Q&A section, and we'll be picking a few to answer at the end of the webinar. So this webinar is also being recorded. So we're going to be sending you a link afterwards, so you can check all the content if you couldn't get in time. So I hope you enjoy it, and welcome, George. I think you're muted. So typical.
Thank you, Yoli, for the nice introduction. And I'd like to thank BAU and everyone involved for the invitation. I'm very honored to be here to talk about this subject that's so special. Conducido is the name of my company, which is the new school for creatives. And today we're going to talk about Coolhunting for self-development, which is something I've been working on for quite a long time, because I've been working for almost 20 years in the fashion and trend forecasting industry. And since 2017, I started to develop a lot of work and research on careers. I wrote a book about it in 2017 called Vida Criativa. It's in Portuguese because I'm from Brazil. It's about creative living. I'm going to quickly introduce myself. I think it's always a nice opportunity. Whenever you have an opportunity to introduce yourself, just do it. So my name is Jorge. I was born in São Paulo, Brazil, where I lived most of my life. I moved to Barcelona about a year ago. So I'm very excited. This is my first actual local job, and has a lot to do with the topics we are bringing up today. I'm founder and creative director of Coolhunting, a digital home for creative professionals to connect through knowledge and personal development, workshops and mentorships. I designed this kind of business on a master's. So I really believe in master programs and designing the things we want to build in our lives. Ideally, I wanted to understand how I could monetize being a content creator and a fashion journalist without becoming an influencer. So I started my own education project to share experiences and be a community. It's all in Portuguese now. And I have worked as a fashion journalist, trend forecaster, public speaker a lot. I think I've done over 100 talks in different parts of the world. Now I consider myself a digital creator and cool hunter for my entire life. I have written for Vogue America, Business of Fashion, CNN Style, Coolhunting. I launched my book, as I mentioned, in 2017, which is a manual for creative people to find their voice. And I really love my work and to connect with people that share the same passions. That's how I connected with Yoli and Jordi and BAU. And that's why I'm here. So let's get started. Why we should think like futurists? Before we start talking about Coolhunting, I just think it's important for us to understand why is it interesting for us to think about the future and to find ways to deal with it. So thinking like a futurist, when we do that, by working with trend forecasting, we become more aware of what we really want. So when you get to understand different points of trends that are happening, you gain awareness of everything around you, so you can make better decisions. With accurate research, we're able to make better decisions in all areas of our lives. We are able to understand the cultural and social connections happening all around us and become a specialist through the construction of a unique repertoire. We have many specialists on the internet on many different fields. But in my opinion, the real specialists are the ones that deep dive in one specific topic. And then you can be very good at it. If we gather curated information, we are able to prepare ourselves with more conscience for the constant changes in the world. So as much as we study about future trends and consumer behaviors, the more ready we can be to define what we want to be, what roles do we want to have in the future. So how do we do that? So how to think like a futurist? First, we need to observe. Look around one or more realities with attention to details without taking anything personal. I think one of the key learnings of Coolhunting is don't take it personal. When you do a trend research, it's never about what you like or what you don't like. It's about what is. Because we predict the future by looking at connect dots we connect in the present. So not specifically we are going to like what we see, but being aware of it makes us smarter to think. Second, analyze carefully and deeply the points observed, looking for more references on each theme you discover. I'm going to give examples later. 3, connect the dots in a way that you're telling a story. So when you observe whatever field you are in, and then you analyze carefully what you find, you're able to connect the dots and make it a story. Then you can collect data to support the concepts you're developing. When you have real data, like real research or interviews on the topics you're talking about, you can really make the work of trend forecasting or Coolhunting more solid. And then organize the findings in a way that the information makes sense and is consistent to other people. But what exactly is Coolhunting? Why am I using this term? Coolhunting is the quest for originality and new concepts. It is the search for what's next through research in different fields that all together present a different perspective on what's established. It is defining the zeitgeist, which is the spirit of the time. You know, that feeling that this is right at this exact moment. Coolhunting is an interpretation of future movements based on facts that are happening in the present. So I was just talking about how to think like a futurist, and we can do that by analyzing in depth what's happening right now, because we can only see right now. We cannot see the future, but then we can make an interpretation of real facts and not fantasies. However, this is very important. The name Coolhunting has different meanings in different parts of the world. Like I'm doing this speech with this name because I'm in Europe right now. I couldn't be doing this in America, for example, because there is a company named Coolhunting there. But originally the term was used to refer to a person who is something of a trend hunter. I'll explain it a little further, but over time, the term has evolved as the world has changed and technologies are constantly changing and shifting. So this is the first time the name Coolhunting appeared as we have registered. It was on March 1997 in the New Yorker magazine on an article written by Malcolm Gladwell, which is a very good writer. And if you don't know about him, you should look into him because he has a lot of books. He's the first person who could actually explain trends. And the report was like, who decides what's cool? Certain kids in certain places, and only the cool hunters know who they are. So the term cool hunting started in the 90s. This is 1997. iPhone was launched in 2007. So this is 10 years before iPhone 1. So what this company was about, this girl, this report was about this girl that had a group of kids who would go into areas where young people hang out, like parties and festivals, to see what they were wearing, what they were doing, and they would sell this information to big corporations like Nike or Converse. And this is how it all started. And then these guys, Josh and Evan in the picture on the left, they found a blogger named coolhunting.com, a blog, and they were on the first generation of blogs in the early 2000s. They still have Coolhunting. Coolhunting just turned 20 years this year. So they own the name in America and some other countries in the world. So Coolhunting is a very established media brand in the US, but in South America, where I grew up, and here in Europe, in most countries, Coolhunting became synonymous of trend hunting and trend forecasting. So many schools have specific courses on this topic. And what's happening now is that what these guys did 20 years ago, which was getting everything they liked and putting online and connecting the dots on a blog, it became so broad with all the technology we have today. So Generation Z cool hunters, they map new trends based on their own digital research. And why? Because the Gen Z is the first digital native generation. It's the first generation that was born with all this technology we have today. Of course, we didn't have TikTok, but I mean, they had internet at their homes and their phones, which is something I didn't have until I was in my 20s. So if you like fashion, you can have access to all the archives and everything. So they become they can become specialists at a very young age without ever having left their houses, and they're going straight to good jobs because they're exposing ideas online. So these new digital creators, they track the trends. There's like a race for new trends, especially on TikTok. And then they are hired by brands because experienced professionals have to understand what they're talking about. They are dictating the trends. And this is a very interesting movement. And how a trend is born? What are the signs? How can we find the trend? A trend is like an idea or concept that spreads fast. So it's something that you've never seen before, and then you see once, and suddenly it's everywhere. Something you've never seen that's suddenly everywhere. It's an epidemic, a contagion. Everything happens at once. It is the ability to see an inflection. Inflection is a good term here. It's a turning point before everyone else sees it. Whichever company or professional sees this inflection first, it can be the leader of a next movement that's coming. The inflection turns the roots of the marketplace. So reading trends and learning how to make our own moves in our lives, for launching a project, for choosing a career, it's very interesting because you can really be ahead of the game. I'm going to give a trend story first in fashion that I think we're all familiar by now because it's everywhere, which is the Y2K pink fever we've seen everywhere. So this whole pink trend on fashion started a lot on TikTok with Gen Z, started as a nostalgia of the 2000s with a lot of inspiration from Paris Hilton, Britney Spears, and it all exploded very, 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 very fast on TikTok. And the original references became icons. There are so many pages devoted to that and how this image became so strong. And it's funny because trends usually, the nostalgia trends, they usually take 2 decades to come back. So because it's when people who were very, very young when that was happening, happening, getting their 20s, and they start to become nostalgic of easier days when they were super young. So the kids who are like 20 something today, they're missing the early 2000s when they were kids. And then you see the way it spreads fast. It comes out of the Gen Z. Lots of the movement starts with the younger generation. And then it started to be adopted by huge celebrities on Fashion Week street styles. And then we start to see an evolution of the trend. And then how does it go everywhere? Suddenly it's everywhere. Suddenly you see it in footwear, in streetwear, sportswear, and it becomes something that the people who wore it first don't want to wear it anymore because it's everywhere. So how can we use this kind of knowledge for our self-development, for our self-improvement? By making a deep research on consumer trends to anticipate what products and services will be relevant in the near future, by creating a project that will attend upcoming consumer demands, and also by defining our target audience and finding out what they need before they do. This is very interesting because if we understand like a lot about in the market we want to be in, what consumers really want, and we can anticipate their needs in the form of product and services. This is the way startups function. They first find the need, and then they create the solution, and then they look for sponsors. It's very different from how creative business were formed when a designer had an idea and he didn't know if people would buy that or not. And now things are changing very fast. So how do we map macro trends to design our future selves? I'm going to show a little research I've done on current consumer behavior and things I've been connecting all around us, and then new businesses that are coming that are responding to these new consumer demands. I'm going to first point out, starting here with permacrisis. The word permacrisis was elected the word of 2022 by the British dictionary Collins. It refers to a long period of instability and insecurity, especially resulting from a series of catastrophic events. So life on Earth haven't been easy for a while now, and it seems we are living in a permanent crisis and always afraid. So this is a new word that also started to permeate different cultures and different languages, and it's very interesting to see how people are managing to live in the middle of the crisis. At the same time, we have a big individualization of the self. Freedom, self-determination, and achievement are precious values, essential for well-being. So we're in an age where this is very valuable. However, taken to the extreme, as it is taken today, self-sufficiency can lead to the belief that we need to prove ourselves and win all the time as individuals and not as a community or society, which can promote an intellectual isolation and an increasingly competitive society. So at the same time that we are pressured to be the best version of ourselves and to achieve things, we are thinking a lot about ourselves and not about others, and social media just makes this stronger because it's so competitive. And then there is the normalization of problems. I like the word normalization, but I think it's the way we're normalizing things is something that worries me a lot. So the climate catastrophe that already plagues us has introduced an entirely new health hazard. Anxiety about climate change is associated with young people's perception that there is no future, which is something, a very common topic among very young people. As human beings, we adapt and normalize good or bad situations. People get used to living in a war. We got used to live with COVID, as absurd as it seemed in the beginning. So the verb normalize refers to the mechanism by which something previously unlikely to happen or even super scary, like COVID, becomes so normal that we don't even notice it anymore. So here we have plastic pollution, tons of clothes on the desert, and then we have this is a collaboration with Balenciaga and Gap that simulates what's happening with the clothes. It's kind of a lot of people don't even notice anymore because it becomes common sense, which is not exactly a good thing. The next point I'm bringing here is something called celebrities, which is a term used by psychology today. Celebritism refers to the pursuit of fame and popularity through social media. In the search for attention, people end up mirroring and simulating the life of celebrities, and then end up feeling less popular, attractive, successful, rich, connected, or influential. So there's this huge movement. There are even Instagram accounts focus on finding the copies because people want to look like certain celebrities, and it makes them feel worse because it's not real. So the more time people spend on social media in search of fame, the worse people feel. And there's a lot of research to validate that. And this is something that's happening along with this individualization. It's bringing a lot of mental health issues to all of us. Then the elevation of self. Ironically, while working to elevate their status on social platforms, people erode their own sense of worth and lower the self-esteem of others. This is because neither they nor their target audience can match the beauty, fame, or fortune of local or global celebrities. So as much as we can mimic behaviors of people we admire, we will never be like them. So, and there are all these addictive features on social media that only make us stay there longer and longer and longer and longer. Who hasn't been like for hours seeing TikTok or Instagram or seeing something that we get excited about, and then you see how many hours went by, and it's very problematic. But what's happening to respond to these preoccupating scenarios with these ideas I'm pointing out? A mindful group of Gen Zers is turning their attention to a karma-inspired existence. There is a mood for spirituality and finding a meaning for everything as well. So this movement, I named it Karma Cool. It refers to when we actually believe that our actions are recognized as something that will impact the future. So we pay attention to our actions to make sure we're doing good to others. It's all about spirituality, mindfulness, sustainability, planetary health, and legacy. So in every little thing we do during our days, being like when we're cooking, when we're deciding something to buy, if we think that whatever we do, we get it back, it's a thing that can help us make better decisions. So we see new businesses coming from this new mentality of healing the world and the society from all these problems we are having now as a society, curating traditions. Vereda is a sustainability and design consulting platform that bridges artisan communities in Latin America with the European luxury market, positively impacting local economies, improving working conditions, and directly contributing to the preservation of cultural heritage and traditional crafts of different regions. This is such a beautiful work, Vereda's work, because a lot of craftsmanship in Brazil and Africa and all Latin America, they're not valued. And in Europe, craftsmanship is so valued, it's luxury. So we have this exchange of like valuing traditions from Latin America and bringing to Europe to be sold as luxury. This is very interesting. Resignifying trauma. Here's a story that I fell in love with. It's a French-Israeli designer named Benjamin Benmoal. He just 2 seasons ago launched his first collection at Paris Fashion Week. And the idea is that he wanted to recreate his own story and give a new meaning to his trauma. So he developed a fabric from his childhood VHS tapes and audio cassettes. So he really ripped the tapes to make a fabric that he uses in everything he does. Now he buys from different suppliers, like old VHS tapes, because he has worked in the army. And he wanted to transform all that he lost, the naivety he lost during his military services. So it's a very beautiful work of recovery. So at the same time, we need to recover our own selves. We need to, there's a movement to recover the world and the oceans. So this is a work that I find very interesting. It's a brand called Butter. They named themselves Caribbean Couture, and they have the purpose of saving Curaçao's corals through fashion. So they develop 80%, it's a fashion brand, they develop 80% of their collection with sustainable plastic materials from ocean waste, and they launched their own coral farm in partnership with a local diving company. I didn't know what a coral farm was, but after this, please Google it, go to YouTube, because it's very cool. It's like a farm, but underneath the water, and they revive corals. It's so nice. So the whole brand's made of sustainable, 80% of the collections are sustainable plastic, and they are reforesting the ocean, which is amazing. So we see a big space in design for ecological collaborations. And there is this big group in New York who is a company dedicated to create these collaborations. So when I was mentioning like all these consumer trends in the beginning, and then you see all these new movements, I hope you are connecting the dots the way that I did. New companies and businesses in design are creating solutions for the problems and the ideas and the issues we have today. And design has this function to be a facilitator for people's life. So Partly is a global collaborative network of creators, thinkers, and leaders taking action to protect the oceans. Their main focus is the ocean. I really suggest also doing a big research on their work because it's fascinating. They are headquarters in New York, and they connect artists and creators from different areas to collaborate with the removal of plastic waste from beaches, remote island rivers, mangroves, and the high sea to reuse the plastic in new products. Because it's not easy removing the plastic from I was gonna say just ocean, but it's beaches, remote islands, rivers. So they have a structure to do it. And the idea is that they connect with all sorts of brands, not only to reuse the plastic, but also to promote the idea. So they have so many interesting art and design projects. I think it's a very new and interesting kind of business that is also a solution, which sounds very interesting. Here, going to a completely different segment, talking about spirituality and parties at the same time. There are new festivals that are really helping people with their mental health more than changing the conversation that that always happened around electronic music festivals. So Lost Village is the name of an English festival that happens once a year. I think it's in August, where people camp in a forest and can enjoy a program ranging from yoga, meditations, lectures, workshops, and also parties. They also dance, but the whole program is for people to connect with themselves and with nature. So this is also a solution for everything we've been living in, to rethink the way we have fun and to rethink the way we connect with people around us and where we go. Garbage Couture. This is a fashion project in Italy. It was founded in Milan by Giuditta Tanzi, and it focuses on handcrafted, unique, and recycled pieces The sourcing starts with a wide search of materials. So she looks for clothes that are discarded at free fairs, secondhand stores. She gets clothes from friends and family, and then she deconstructs and combine into new creations and pieces. So it looks very haute couture. That's why she calls garbage couture, but it's all made of clothes she finds in so many different places. This is not exactly something we've never seen before, but I mean, the idea of making it a real luxury and the whole aesthetic of it, because sometimes we have an aesthetic in our mind of how vintage clothes or recycled clothes should look like. And I feel like this is a game changer, and we're seeing a lot of new brands doing this, like really, really creating very, very interesting and strong fashion that's 100% made by discarded clothes or material. Regenerate to create. This is very interesting. It's another example in fashion. Designer Isa Boulder, she produces her collection in her own factory that she owns in Bali. And she employs only artisans who are unemployed. So it's just the factory is already a social work. So she finds people, she just employs people who doesn't have a job. And then she uses, she reuses wasted yarn and proposes a new aesthetic that is just not something beautiful to look at, but she regenerates people and material. So you can see these gorgeous fashion images with great art direction and everything, but the idea that she's regenerating people and materials to create something new and exciting, it's very, I think it's a path that's very interesting for us to follow, because when you buy something from her, you are helping so many people and so many ideas. So I feel consumption is going a lot in this direction. So if we're planning our careers, we should really think of these movements and how we can participate on them and not do more of what it's happening now. There's this movement which I really like, which is a consumer behavior named Corp Core, and it's the new norm core. For those who, norm core was something that was used like 10 years ago to refer to a fashion trend that mostly started in Silicon Valley, that everybody dressed like Steve Jobs, for example, like with the very plain clothes. And however, instead of rejecting trends for more basic fashion in neutral colors, which was the norm core, the Gorp core worships the forest, strictly defining itself by clothing codes for trekking, camping, and outdoors, with generally colorful pieces. Brands like North Face and Patagonia take on new meanings as more and more people aspire to live closer to nature. So it responds to like our will to be closer to nature and have a more natural life. So we see this becomes fashion, this becomes design, because people are interested in being more adventurous. So there's already a name for it. But it's in all parts of the market. Here's on the luxury end, Galeries Lafayette in Paris opened a space of 3,000 square meters dedicated to the state-of-the-art wellness with a unique and holistic approach to well-being. So it's not a beauty store. They have a range of services from yoga, personal trainer, wellness rituals, and specialists. They have different therapists. So like it's the largest fashion retailer in France opened a huge store on well-being. So it says a lot about consumers' needs today, and what I was saying about understanding what people need and being ahead of the game. This is why we can use Coolhunting to define what we want to do in the future. There's also a psychedelic revolution going on, and the Netflix doc-series How to Change Your Mind, that was based in the 2018 book of the same name by American author Michael Pollan. I've read this book, and it's really, really changes your mind, as the name is, but now there's a show. The book is better. It's redefining the history of psychedelics, breaking prejudice, and showcasing a new industry of healing. So the industry of healing is something that's going to be burgeoning in the next few years. So as I'm showing here, I'm giving a lot of examples that fashion can be healing and beauty can be healing and parties can be healing, which is very exciting and it's very new and very different. So I'm going to give you some key takeaways for us to finish this lecture. Self-care, healing and wellness services evolve into new products and services to treat the individual as a whole in all consumer industries. So the idea that we are not creating clothes for the body, we're not creating just beauty, like to have a nice hair. Everything now is thought for the individual as a whole, respecting the people and the earth. So ideally, it's not a reality, but for people who are studying, for you guys who are developing your own ideas and transforming them into businesses, to start with this mindset is very interesting. Brands and professionals who are able to touch their consumer with solutions for people that involve the healing of the planet will redesign the industry scenario in the coming years. I've been saying a lot that being conscious is the biggest trend for this year, because I feel like if we don't get conscious about everything that's happening around us and realize that we are the only ones who can create a solution for it, then what's going to happen? So the jobs of the future must take responsibility for our mental health and for the health of the planet by creating new products and services that will work as facilitators of sustainability and well-being. And we can do this in several different ways in all industries. And this is what I always say when we study Coolhunting or trend forecasting to understand what people want. I'm just going to give you a last provocation before we finish, and I'm going to get back to Yoli, is what do you want right now? Where do you spend your money? What do you buy? What excites you right now about what you're seeing? Because that's when we start to study consumer behavior. It's not something that needs to be external of us. It's something that's within us. And look at what your peers are buying, what your friends are buying, what your family is buying. What are you looking for? What were the last websites you shopped in? What stores did you get in? What are their values? What they're promoting to you? This is how you start to do your research. Connect the dots, find yourself in the middle of that. And I hope you liked it. Thank you. And if you have any questions, I'll be here. And that's it, Yoli.
Wow, thank you very much, George, for sharing all your knowledge and your passion. And I'm very into understanding the future and being conscious about everything also. We're very similar in that topic. So it was very enjoyable to see you, laying all this content that's really well curated and digested. So thank you for that. If you have any questions, drop on the chat that we can also ask George. But I have one. I would love to know your personal consideration on how do cool hunters balance the tension between authenticity and commercialization and the ethical considerations, how everything comes into play in this process, like how to dose each one of them, because trends are coming every day and everywhere. So how people can lay the trend and being also commercial, but also ethical about it. How to balance it?
This is the $1 billion question. It's something like, it depends. Honestly, it depends if you want to be really small and respect your values and don't try to be the biggest in what you do, because it's just as you see, like most of the examples I gave are from really small new companies. Because if you're starting a business now, you can bring all these values that you believe in, but it's very hard to change a large structure that already functions in a way that's polluting the planet. Now, nobody lives without Amazon delivering everything daily. But then if you see all the data, you say, how am I supporting this company? So there's a lot of questions like this. So the thing I think goes to your answer is like, define how big you want to be and how you can get there by not corrupting your values. So for me, for example, my kind of business, I work with 2 people, and I decided to be a teacher and to be small and to spread messages that I believe in. And So this is my way to respect my values and to not do something that I hope I don't harm anyone with what I'm doing.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. We have another question from Rosario. She's asking, I know that everything goes towards the ecological, but do you think that if I do something that is not ecological, I will be out of fashion in the next 5 years?
It's an excellent question. I don't feel that's one trend, okay? I think when you study major fashion trends today, it all goes to sustainability and ecology, because fashion is an industry that has serious issues in all ends, from the usage of water and to the manufacturing of people to the fast pace of things. But at the same time, like Shane is I think it's the most, I'm not 100% sure, but I know that it's the brand that's growing the most in fashion. And it's all parallel to the sustainability movie, this new movement named ultra fast fashion. And if you go out in a club in Barcelona, everybody's wearing Shane, because everybody wants a €3 top for the weekend. So I don't think you're going to be unsuccessful if you're not ecological right now, because I think there are several different movements happening at the same time. There's no one trend that's dominating ever. So I feel you should connect the dots to really believe in what you're doing and to prove that what you're doing is right for the kind of consumers you're doing, because not everybody is looking for this. Make sense?
Yeah, I think, well, it's very, very interesting that you just brought that, because I really do believe there's not like a, the queen trend. And then I think everything changes so fast. And we've been talking about sustainability and being ecological for at least 15 years, and now it's different. The pendulum go back and forth into sustainability, but into a different direction. So yeah, I don't think there's a big mother trend at all. Awesome. We have another one. I think it will be the last one. How fashion trends can impact to any kind of storytelling related to any brand.
How can fashion? I think it's important to know the fashion trends of your segment. So for example, I showed the pink trend. I'm talking to very specific young generation of female consumers mostly. Now everything is kind of mixed up. So if for your audience, that movement is interesting, if you think the consumer you're working for is going to be interested in that kind of story, you need to find a way to make it natural to you, so we don't appropriate from a culture that's not ours, because it's very weird for me. I just wear black and suddenly I start to wear pink and talk about pink. You know what I mean? It has to be real. So that's why I feel context is very, very important. If there are students from the Masters, I'm going to have a class only on context with storytelling in April, I think. And because whatever story you want to tell with your brand, think about the context. The context, I think, is the house of the story. So where do your story live? Because it has to make sense. I think like there's a lot of random thing in the internet. The most established brands, they follow some kind of storytelling. So ideally, if I were you, I would look into the brands I like the most and try to find how they tell their stories, how they put the trends in there, and then you find your own way to do it.
Awesome. I think we don't have any more questions. So I would like to thank you very much for spending time with us and sharing all of your knowledge. And for everyone to know, this webinar is being recorded, so you're going to have access to the link afterwards. So if you got in the middle, or if you want to rewatch it, we're going to be sending you all the way. So thank you very much, George, and I hope I see you soon.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Yoli. Very happy to be here. If anybody wants to write me a DM on Instagram, I'm available to talk to you guys. Okay? Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone.